Welcome to day 2 of Supaweek. Day 1 was yesterday and we got started building our API first application that takes a Supabase backend where we're going to store all of the data, mixes in a little bit of OpenAI and puts Zuplo in front of that to essentially create the API REST front end that supported a post operation to create a blog post that then called OpenAI to generate the content and store it in Supabase, and a get all blog posts method that called directly into Supabase. We're going to go a little bit further with it today and actually take security much more seriously. Yesterday we did add API key authentication, but we didn't do anything to sort of partition data by users. Essentially, anyone with an API key could access any blog post created by anybody. So today we're going to imagine that you might have API keys that belong to different organizations, tagged by an org ID. And we're actually going to follow the day 2 blog post that you can see right here. And we are going to add the capability to filter by the org ID of the API key. So let's just follow the blog post now as it takes us through this. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is adding metadata to API keys and use them in your API. So I need to add an org ID column of type int8 to my Supabase. So here is my Supabase. Let's go to my blogs table. I want to edit the table and I'm going to add a new column called org ID of type int8, signed 8 by integer. And we're just going to save that right now. And now we need to make some changes to the request handler in Zuplo. So this is going to be a little bit detailed, so we have to be careful here. But you'll notice the code has been marked up with pluses and minuses, so I can quickly come in here and make the changes. So let's go in, and if I navigate to this, you'll see this is the code. And I think this code goes at the top here. Obviously, I'm going to have to get rid of these pluses. I'm doing Option Shift, by the way, there. If we save that, that will get tidied up for us. We'll need some more changes here. So I await save to blog to database. I need to pass in the org ID. So this changes to be like this with org ID, but notice it's not happy because that method doesn't support that well. It does in a minute because we're going to add that as a parameter in save to blog here. And so we're adding a parameter to save blog to database. And then finally, where we do the .insert becomes .insert with the org ID. So we've changed it. Makes sense? So all that's changed here is that now when I generate the blog post, it looks at the request.user data and gets the org ID from the metadata of the user and uses that and inserts it into the database. So pretty easy. If we continue, you see we need to do the same when we get the data out. Now, if you remember, how we're getting the data out is by using a URL rewrite. So in here, we do a URL rewrite to v1 blogs. What we're going to do now is add some extra code magic here on this URL rewrite to actually extract and add a condition to the fetch that gets the data for the org ID of the current user. So Abdullah's kindly provided you with the correct code here. So I'm just going to copy this and I'll explain it to you. Let's drop this in here. And oops, I copied far too much text and drove the portal wild. Let's just clear that up. There we go. Yeah, now it's happy. So what that's saying is org ID equals the value of the request user metadata org ID property. So essentially that was all we had to do to secure the data in our database using the API key from Zuplo. Now, in order to really get this working, I'm actually going to have to create a new API key that has the appropriate metadata. And I'm guessing that's going to be the next step. Yep, create an API key with an org ID in the metadata. So let's go and do that. We're going to pop back over here. And this one is going to be called test2. And don't need the manager, but I do need an org ID. So org ID, if you remember, that was an int. So we're going to put this person in an org ID of 23. Click save. Test2 is the user I want. So I'm going to copy my API key, go over to my routes, and we're going to create a little test entry here with this. Oops, I just copied the key instead of. Try again. Let's go and get test2's key, copy that. Back here, test. Glad I spotted that, otherwise I'd be very confused. Delete that first. Paste in the new key. And let's do a topic of why you need an API gateway. Okay, so that has completed. In today's digital world, it starts, obviously, you need an API gateway, clearly. Okay, so now if I go and do get all blogs test and paste in that new, if I use the old API key, by the way, I will get some kind of, yeah, there was a problem because it couldn't look at the key. Now we could do better error handling than that. But if I use the new key, I get 200 OK and just my entry, which is exactly what I wanted because I'm in the right org to actually get that data out. So let's take a look, but I think that's the end of day 2 for Supaweek. We have more great content for you every day this week, going deeper and deeper and including a couple of announcements for users of Zuplo and Supabase. So stay tuned.